It's time for another development sprint of Pixel Art Academy Learn Mode for the topic of pixel art size. I usually record these videos on Mondays, but I had a bit of a headache, so yeah, here we are now on Thursday. But as I was lying on the couch, I did design all of the lessons for this tutorial, how they were going to go. I also wrote all of the text for the lessons and created all the tasks, all nicely prioritized. So we're gonna tackle high right now, and I will see you in a bit. Alrighty, we have the tutorial underway. I got 2 high priority lessons done with the final one just in the working. Let's take a look how it looks like in the game. So we have a new to-do, learn about pixel art size. And that's gonna be inside of the tutorials, pixel art size over here. The first lesson is about display resolution, because when it comes to pixel art, it's all about, can you see the pixels? The pixels have to be visible for it to be pixel art at the sort of at its core. So here it gives you an example. Here's gonna be Dragon 32 and ColecoVision. 2 different machines. We're gonna see the same game, 2 different styles. Let's start drawing this one. I'm gonna zoom in here. This is a little frog. And yeah, this was very common that back in the days you could choose between how many colors you're going to be able to display. So here on the Dragon you could have, if you wanted to have 4 colors, these 3 plus another one, then the resolution of the screen would be limited. In particular for the Dragon 32, if you have 4 colors, the resolution is going to be 128 by 96 pixels. All right, the turtles are in. Let's do the log as well. And as machines go, this is quite a big pixel art style. Very big chunky pixels on the screen. Meanwhile, on the ColecoVision, this was a console, one of the early consoles. They had a little bit better graphic chips, so they were closer to what you would be able to play at an arcade those days. So here's already our Frogger. You can kind of see that there's going to be difference in resolution. Also, the sprites are quite bigger. And since this machine is then at a higher resolution, double the resolution of the Dragon, well, the resulting pixels, if you display it on the same TV, well, double the resolution means the pixels themselves are going to be smaller, half of the ones on Dragon. And finally here's the comparison of the full screenshot. Here we have lower resolution 128 by 96. Here we have higher resolution 256. On the left, this makes bigger pixels and you're forced to do more simplification, whereas on the right, the pixels themselves are smaller, which gives you more space for details. See here, the sprites are only 5 to 6 pixels, whereas here they're about twice the size. And the lesson finally tells you that, of course, today we are not limited by the hardware anymore. We can choose how many colors, whatever resolution we want, and so it all comes down to then what kind of aesthetic you want to have. Do you want to have bigger pixels with more simplification, or do you like pixel art styles with more details? Pixel art size really comes down to then how chunky do I want my pixels to look like. There will be another lesson that will elaborate this, but eventually you will get to this lesson that sort of explains this base principle. When you are deciding how big to draw things, you have to think about what are the smallest details that I want to be able to represent. And here I was a little inspired by Brandon James Greer, who did a lesson like this where he was drawing the Switch. And so here I created a couple of controllers. Let's go with this one. So for example, if whenever you have a reference, let's say that we wanted to have enough detail that we can represent this circle in the center of the D-pad. For it to be a circle, we need to spend at least a few pixels. Here I'm gonna go with 3 so that it has a little bit of a circular shape, and then on top of that we can then go and set the outline. Essentially, as soon as I set up this first size, everything follows from it. We want to get the same proportions as the reference. The start pretty much decided the rest of the drawing for us. Let's get these buttons in here, very stylized logos, and there we have it. Now if we made a different choice at the start, that would lead to a different size. So for example, if we choose the D-pad to be simply represented with a little cross, well, and now we repeat everything. So we again drew the circle around it, but of course the D-pad is now just 3 by 3, so this circle is smaller, and then the whole controller will of course be much smaller as well. Now at this point we can't anymore include, for example, this select and start at the bottom or the entertainment system, so we have to start simplifying things or just skipping things that would become too small, and eventually we will come to a lot of details that just become 1 pixel. So all of these buttons are just pixels, but because we know that, well, this thing on a controller has buttons here, so even though we couldn't distinguish these pixels from other pixels, well, out of the context of where they are positioned, we can figure out, okay, those pixels are meant to represent the buttons. Here we will continue to the smallest possible size, where the D-pad is itself just a single pixel. So all we have left is to have these 4 buttons here and the start buttons for the smallest little cute SNES controller. These are the 2 key principles: the size of the pixels and the details that you want to be able to represent. And the final of high priority lessons is also the readability analysis, because after this you will get to a challenge where you will get this new analysis down here. This is very much work in progress, so we're gonna start with an alarm clock. It's kind of like in the simplification lessons, you can look at it, but you don't have to follow it exactly at all. This is just for you to get an idea what you're trying to draw, but you could draw the alarm clock any way you want. So for now I'm just gonna go with a circle, and then the readability analysis here. Just love this printout here we get from the Pixel Touch. I want to make sure that you know that this is just a computer analyzing something. Don't take it too seriously, it's not super smart, but it gives you a breakdown of the things that it sees right now. This is not how the final thing is going to look like, but we can see what it's thinking about. Of course, right now it barely has anything to go on. So let's say that we draw a few more things. There you go, alarm clock, 84%, we're getting there. Hopefully I can get all these 4 more lessons done by the end of the sprint. So no time to waste, and let's get to it. Here we are on the end of the sprint, and I've managed to do the high priority stuff, a couple of medium priority lessons. I would love to get to the other lessons that I have, but we're just gonna keep on moving fast as we like to do. And so let me show you how this all ended up. Here's our pixel art size tutorial, and then we've done display resolution last time already, and the new this week is perceived resolution, a new tutorial about pixel art size, where it doesn't just depend on the size of the sprites and the resolution of the display, but also where you are showing off your pixel art. So in the previous tutorial you had your screens drawn out, but here you actually draw them yourself. Now it might be a little bit overwhelming to see all of these colors here, and I need to do some play testing to see how people react to this. So by the time you see this out on Steam, it might already be changed a little bit, but for now, yeah, you get to draw these 2 devices, because it really depends how your pixel art is going to be seen. A little bit depends on how you are using it. So for example, if you're making art for a game that you know is going to be played full screen on a computer or even on a TV, you can make things much bigger than if you're just drawing some sprite that you want to primarily post on social media. So then here is this example, right? If you have a huge pixel art artwork, this one is one of my landscapes that's 500 pixels wide, but then you're showing it off inside of a social media feed, like it's gonna just look so small that you can't really even see that it's pixel art. You can kind of see that it is, probably from the color palette and the style, but it really isn't, like, it doesn't evoke the feeling of pixel art, of the simplification that is required for pixel art. Of course, it can be a different positive feeling as well when you zoom into it and then you see, oh wow, it's actually made out of pixels. So it can have this wow effect as well. But just on general, when you look at it, it just doesn't convey the same aesthetic as it would if this was done in lower resolution. And this also goes the other way around. So Here, for example, is a very small landscape. I think it's only 64 pixels across. And if you use this as a wallpaper, imagine as a wallpaper, it would cover the whole screen. Like, it's very hard to read. This isn't the most appealing wallpaper. You can kind of see what it is if you zoom out, right? Oh, look, it's a landscape, right? If you're deciding to draw something as a wallpaper, you might be using different pixel size than if you're designing it to just be posted on social media. Now you get to actually draw an artwork here that will then appear on both devices. So you can see how the same artwork can look low resolution or high resolution depending on where you're posting it. Yeah, hopefully through this tutorial pixel art size, people will understand that smaller artworks are better as a general rule of thumb. The smaller the artworks are, the more they convey the original pixel art aesthetic. They are more pixel arty. And then second, it's gonna take you much less time to finish something. Because a lot of times I see beginners, they don't know how big to make stuff. And so they just start with some big artworks like 200, 300 pixels wide. And then there's just so many details to put in, and it just takes super long and you don't have the experience. So starting small is definitely the way to go in learning sense. And at the same time, like, yeah, it then conveys this pixel art aesthetic. All right, almost there. Let's do this snow. And here we go. This is the end of the lesson. We can see how the same artwork looks low resolution here if it was a wallpaper, and still quite high res. Like, if you zoomed out, you could almost think, like when you see on the social media, it's not immediately apparent it's pixel art. It could be a photo or something. It's only after you zoom in. And that's also what the text here then says. On a phone, you have the ability to zoom in, like by dragging. Plus, when you create an artwork, you will probably want to post it in multiple places. So some people will open it up on the PC, it'll look bigger there. So in the end, if you know where your artwork will be displayed, as in you're making a game and you know that it will be played full screen, so then you have actual control of how big the play will be, and therefore you can focus more on, okay, what display resolution I need for it to have a specific aesthetic, the size of the pixels. Whereas if you're just creating an artwork that's going to be used to post as an artwork to multiple places, it doesn't matter as much the specific dimensions. It's more about what do I want to be able to show in the picture, and let's choose the size so that I'm able to show those details. And that is exactly what then the next tutorial goes into. So in smallest detail lesson, we just kind of arbitrarily choose one of the details that we want to be able to represent. But then now the next tutorial goes into, well, what's the smallest size that you can represent at all? Because you need to be able to recognize what the subject is. So here's an actual game example. There's this game that I loved as a kid called Jungle. It's a Chinese game, and here you get the game board, and you will be drawing all of this. You have to draw all of these 8 different animal sprites. Let's say that you were doing a digital version of this. So you know that you will have to draw 8 different animals, and all of them need to be recognizable. So you have to start with the smallest one, and you have to be able to, hey, how big does the smallest animal need to be so that I can still read what it is? Or if any of the other animals have any specific details that need to be recognizable, they might also constrain how small you can go. So in this case, the rat is the smallest, and if you simplify the rat to its smallest thing, then we can have this little curve here, and then usually a tail. We're also gonna put the snout there, and this is done in Pico 8 colors. Here's kind of the smallest you can make a little hump for in pixel art, and then 1 pixel for the tail. And now similarly, cats, they have this kind of a head with 2 big ears. So you can kind of see that to be able to represent this shape, you need to have at least 3 pixels, 1 pixel here, 1 here, 1 here. So let's start by making the cat this big. This is the head, and now we do the body. And yeah, I was trying to decide what kind of a cat to do, and there's all these the tabby cats are quite common domestic cats, and they have stripes and a little whiter underbelly. And this just continues. We just go bigger and bigger. So this is sort of the smallest you could make these animals, but if you could go smaller. So here, this final part of this lesson does go smaller, like for bigger animals like the elephant, like even this smaller version is still quite big, so you can kind of get the trunk. But when it comes down to the rest of the animals, like if you just saw the animal itself, like just this, you'd be like, what is this? So really at this small size, you are down to the context to be able to know what you're looking at. So for example, let's say that this was a game where you could zoom in or zoom out, or maybe you saw like a mini map. Well, you've seen the bigger tiger before, so if I zoom out and you saw this smaller version of the animal, well, then you'll be still able to figure out that, oh, okay, this is a leopard, that's a tiger. But, and like this rat is just 2 pixels. You can't know that these 2 pixels represent a rat. On their own, they're not really recognizable. So I would consider these top ones to be sort of minimum size that you can still, if you see this, you'll be like, oh, that's a dog. Yeah, I hope you liked my little representations of these animals. And now we get to the final lesson, and here's how it looks like in the end. I was able to make the recognizer work in a way that is easy to figure out, and you get to choose actually 3 different things you can draw. So it could be an umbrella or a bicycle or an alarm clock. Let's do the bicycle. Here, yeah, it says problematic, and it says this could maybe be confused with eyeglasses or a spoon. Well, I don't know. Spoon is questionable, so here I also say it will make mistakes like this, and hopefully it'll be funny more than anything. But, you know, still it's good enough, so it knows that, hey, you know, it could be confused with something else. Keep going, right? So improve the clarity so it's not like you will think these are eyeglasses. So as soon as we put in some more details, so we could go something like this. Yeah, so you see, like this is half drawn and it already knows, hey, it is likely a bicycle. Just kind of like in the simplification, I mean, kind of, you'd probably figure it out too, right? Although I'm not really happy with it, but you could do something like this. I even made it so that you can, when you're here, you could even be drawing now and then you get this, hey, I'm trying to recognize it. But yeah, recognition, I was able to get it up to perfect. Both my classifiers agreed this is a bicycle, so yeah. And there you have it. We've learned about pixel art size. Here we go. It opens up. We did this. What we are going to do next time is this 8x8, 16x16, and 32x32 icon. So right now, that's not done yet in this whole goal, but will come next time. So there we have it. I really want to do 2 more lessons on tile size and sprite size. Hopefully I'll be able to get those in a later iteration when I'm trying to make content even better. But for now, this is good enough, so we're gonna keep on going so that we keep getting these updates out as fast as possible. Right now I have to playtest this to see if everything works okay, but by the time you're seeing this on YouTube and on Steam, it should be already playable. So see you in the game.